nearly 10,000 terrorist attacks in 2013. Now, that's a 44% increase from the previous year. The report said militant groups Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram and the Taliban were behind most of the deaths. Iraq was the country most affected by terrorism. The report released by the Institute for Economics and Peace also says nearly 18,000 people died from terrorist attacks in 2013. Now, to further discuss this report, here with me in the studio is Dr. Femi Adegbolu. He's a security expert. You're welcome to the program.
I'm pleasure to be here.
Now, the Terrorism Index raises questions about the West war on terror. Despite the invasion of Iraq, Afghanistan, despite the use of drones in Pakistan, we're still seeing this increase in terrorism. What could be responsible?
Yeah, actually, when we see terrorism as a multifaceted issue, we'll begin to know how to resolve the incident of terrorism, because you cannot solve the incident of terrorism by just using just one approach. First of all, you need to know why terrorism. Why are the people taking up arms against the rest of the world? So until we are able to understand this, because if you trace the history of terrorism, there have been terrorism so many years now, but this large-scale aspect of mass murder and all those things are just recent phenomena. But then we cannot isolate this incident from all the wars that are being fought in the Middle East, for instance, then Iraq, and then the recent one, Syria. So all these are issues that are bringing out issue of terrorism.
Well, in the report, it was stated that religious ideology is not the only motivation for terrorism. How true is this?
Yeah, there could be some political issues at stake. For instance, the issue in Iraq, for instance, shortly after the war, you will see escalation of terrorism. Look at the Syria issue too, after the war. And even up to now, the war is still raging on. And so, I mean, terrorism sometimes thrives in a situation of anomie, where there is no governance, where everything is upside down, where people, where there is no organization. So of course they will easily hibernate under such situation to perpetrate their havoc. But that's not to say that that's just a singular reason and why terrorism thrives. If we look at the case of Nigeria, for instance, it's not as if we were in state of war when terrorism started here. So which means there is another reason for the terrorism that we suffer in Nigeria as against other countries. Anything can bring about, it could be separatists, for instance, on ground of maybe grievances that are not yet settled, or political injustice or social injustice. It could be any of the, it could be economic deprivation, then it could be religious. So there are so many angles to the issue of terrorism, but it now depends on what actually brought about the terrorism of a particular region. That is what will actually give a kind of pointer to how it will be resolved. So it's not all economic or religious, as it were.
Now, let's bring it back home here. There's no doubt that Boko Haram has been able to establish itself as a strong terrorist organization. How did we get to this point? How did the group grow so big and we could not nip it in the bud?
It's unfortunate. The warning signals have been there so many years in Nigeria, which successive administrators refuse to heed. They refuse to actually take seriously the warning signals. Now, in a situation whereby an individual, for instance, will steal the money that is meant for a whole community or the whole society, and pocket it and use it to do whatever, and even send his children abroad and all that, buy big cars, and to the detriment of the whole poly in the same area. So, and when such people are apprehended, they are just given a slap in the wrist, as if don't steal anymore. No, there is nothing like that will make them serve as deterrent to others. There is no punishment for the offenders who have stolen the people's money, and these people are now looking at, look, under Sharia, if you steal anything, the least consequence is amputation, or the worst is decapitation. So all these things are there in the Sharia, And these people use religion to, I mean, as subterfuge. They also say they are Muslim, but then they steal the people's money. And this we are looking at it under Sharia. This would have been, I mean, would have faced the penalty. And yet, the legal system that is used to try them is this English legal system that will just merely give them a slap in the wrist. So this would got annoyed. So that's why they say, look, to hell with anything that has to do with Boko. You know, Boko, which represents Western culture, that's the essence of Boko Haram. Okay, so the earlier we institute our own system of Sharia that will deal summarily with thieves, the better for us. So that was why they started hating everything Western. So, and that's what gave rise to this deprivation, marginalization in the midst of plenty. Okay, so these are the grievances, for instance, which now, when married together with disgruntlement in terms of religion and wrong ideology that some of them have imbibed, misguided ideology, like if you are able to kill, if in the cause of Allah you inherit whatever. So all these things married together with deprivation, poverty, illiteracy, it's a multifaceted issue that we have faced here. And so to resolve this, for instance, we have to understand which kind of terrorism are we facing, because we have political terrorism, we have economic terrorism, we have criminal terrorism. So we have to identify all these phases. So which one are we actually facing here? We face all here. We face all here because we have criminal terrorism, which have a kind of given vent by politics. People now use politics, for instance, to do anything just to make sure that they achieve their own parochial objective. Then economic terrorism, of course, we know those who are deprived, who are just looking for salvation anywhere. Anybody who comes to meet their immediate need becomes their savior. So they are ready to kill for such a person. So all these things are issues we are battling here. The warning signals have been there all this while, okay? But the government refused to provide jobs for the people, even those who are qualified. They revere in people just rancadating them, on all these things, and eventually the malevolent individuals who have been looking for ways of destabilizing the country now latch on this vulnerability. And that's why easily they have a large recruitment in that area. And that's why we now having problems. Many of them misguided, like I said, and those of them who have been hungry, having people who can solve their immediate problem, they rally around them, you can see. So that's why it's very difficult to be able to take this orgy of violence until we're able to get to the root of why they took to terrorism in the first place.
Now let's look at the federal government's attempt to battle this group. So far, what's your take?
Well, I would say if the government has what I call political will to deal decisively with terrorism, it will be a thing of the past. I tell you, if the federal government actually put its own weight behind the popular opinion. Now, I'm of the opinion, for instance, that the government, President Jonathan, has underutilized his power. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He has all the power. He can command any of the armed forces to say, look, is it not the same armed forces that have gone to Liberia, to Sierra Leone, and have come back with laurel? It's the same armed forces. How come in their own land, even now that Boko Haram have even, given them a kind of leeway, in the sense that they have resorted to taking communities now, and staying there, hoisting their flag there, which gives the army very, very easy opportunity to run them off. Unlike before, where they were fighting asymmetrical war in the sense that you don't know where the enemies are. They launch attack, they disappear. But now they have resorted to taking community and hoisting their flag there. So what is stopping the federal government, the military, from going to where they are, running them up? And I just wonder, there is a little of politics here, politics there, that is preventing this thing from actually being over. I'm of the opinion that if the federal government really wants to deal with terrorism in Nigeria decisively, by tomorrow it will be a thing of the past. If there is political will there, if there is no consideration of 2015.
Well, if what you're saying is that they should go to these communities and retake them, are you not thinking about civilian casualties?
Yeah, I know they actually use people for shield. I know that we are aware of that. But then, the intelligent apparatus of the government, for instance, by now should have been able to isolate who are the Boko Haram. Now, apart from that, let me tell you, if you want to tackle this thing from the root,